And after months of denial, the Israeli army has taken responsibility for the killing of 3 Israeli captives in Gaza last November. It says there's a high probability they were killed as a result of an airstrike in November. The bodies of Elia, Toledano, Bezier and Sherman were recovered in December. Military officials say at the time there was no information to suggest that captives were held in the targeted location. Well, joining us on set is Hassan Barrari, a professor of international affairs at Qatar University. Good to have you with us. So the Israeli military spent many months saying that it was not responsible for the deaths of these captives. Now it's admitting that it is. Why do you think it is making that admission, and why do you think it's doing it now?
Well, at the very beginning, it was not clear for them because of lack of information, and I would also say failure of intelligence. But with time, things have changed. Even the Israeli politics has changed. Back in November and December, the call for unity was very strong, and the belief in victory was kind of overwhelming in Israel. So it's a kind of like no voice above the voice of the battlefield. But now there's a split in the Israeli society, but also there's a split in the army and the government. And we've seen and we've heard a lot of different voices in the Israeli government. So I would say it has been politicized. Now the release of the investigation is political now. And given the fact that Gallant is supported by the army, he is trying to do something different from what Netanyahu wants him to do or wants the army to do.
What's your Gallant, the opposition leader?
Gallant is in opposition to Netanyahu.
Yeah.
And Gallant is supported by Halevi and the chief of staff and also the army people. I think the timing now is very important simply because I think they want to put more pressure on Netanyahu and to kill the idea that the military pressure would release the captives. Now it is obvious that the more the Israelis fight, the riskier the hostages become. So I think it should be understood in this context that there is there are a lot of differences within the Israeli cabinet, within the Israeli society about the future of the war in Gaza.
I want to ask you about this increasing pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu. We've seen for months, of course, the growing crowds that have been gathering in the streets of major cities in Israel, demanding that the Netanyahu coalition do more to bring the captives home. But increasingly, analysts that we've been speaking to have been suggesting that one of the tripping points in this is going to be the military, the stand that the military takes on this. From what you're saying, it sounds as though that split is now moving towards the military actually beginning to take a stand, if you like, to take a position on the way that the captives are prioritized by the coalition. But my question is this: we've seen months of protest, the coalition has not changed its mind. Does this make any difference at all, given the fact that it is the military that itself is making this admission?
It would only weaken the narrative of Netanyahu. You have to remember that the Israeli army is well respected in the Israeli society because it is the backbone of the country. It has won most if not all of its wars with the Arabs. So anyone served in the army is seen in Israel as someone who's patriotic. So when the assessment comes from the army, I think this would weaken Netanyahu. And Netanyahu himself never worked actually in the army. I mean, he served as in the reserve, but he was never a general in the army. And now he is deciding the military aspect of the war. And I think when the IDF come up with this publicly, this would probably weaken, undermine the narrative of Netanyahu that the continuation of the war is the only way for Israel to get back the boys. So implicit in that, if you want to get the boys back, you have to go for a ceasefire deal. And it is there. The framework is there, but all it needs is Netanyahu to negotiate in good faith. He's not doing this. He's trying to deceive everyone, including his allies in the White House. So I think when the army comes with this, it will also add to the anger of the public. So I would expect that there will be more demonstrations and like more in scope and intensity that would direct the blame on Netanyahu personally.
Hassan Barrari, as always, we appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.